Last month, a court ruled that Google has acted as a monopoly through its illegal domination of online search. And a recent article at theblaze.com argues that YouTube needs its own antitrust security. Here to discuss is Peter Gietl, the managing editor for Return and Frontier magazine. So, Peter, should YouTube be investigated for potential antitrust violations?
Yeah, I think absolutely. They've exhibited behavior for, going on decades now of collusion and monopolistic practices, stifling competitors, price gouging, price fixing. There's really a strong argument to be made on this.
So when we look at Google in general, can you just kind of explain the origins, like big picture, origins of Google to present day and how we got to this situation?
Well, you have to go back to the mid-90s, and there's been a lot written about they were originally funded by DARPA through a grant, Sergey Brin and Larry Page, about establishing online libraries. But there was actually a secondary DARPA funding of, basically they wanted the ability to track search queries and see what it was called, like birds of a feather, of different groups. And they thought if they could keep track of different groups and what they were searching, it would be an extremely powerful tool to track the population. So Google came out of that original funding from Stanford that was backed by DARPA. So they've had a long and storied history of kind of collusion with the alphabet agencies. And then they were able to parlay that ability of search to become monopolistic, where, Google controls 90% of search, and I think most of the rest of it runs through YouTube, which is also owned by Google. And any business that wants to advertise has to play in their sandbox, and they have to follow their rules, and they control basically all of the online advertising and search queries in the entire world.
Yeah, YouTube is essentially a search engine. When you look at it with Blaze content that goes out there, we know that they're suppressing the content of conservatives and conservative speech and not letting these messages get out. And who knows what's going to happen in November if that gets even worse. But right now where we are, how is this still allowed to happen? That we still know, right, that Google and YouTube are suppressing content all over the place.
Yeah, Blaze has experienced it a lot of conservative, especially during COVID, there was so much censorship that occurred with these online organizations. Unfortunately, it's a fact of the matter in America, it's not the free market that we kind of used to think of it as. There's certain giant players in a lot of these industries that wield tremendous amounts of power. And even if Google hasn't swung elections or anything, the fact that they have the ability to do that should be disconcerting, and they certainly do.
Yeah, let's explain this a little bit just in terms of Blaze, in the situation that Blaze is in. I think, like any company on the right, we would prefer not to be in business with these people at all. But the problem is, if you want to reach people and you actually want to generate revenue, you don't have an alternative ecosystem that's large enough in which to do that. And even if we did, we would still want at least a shingle there to reach more people and bring them in to whatever new thing we were on, right? So you're stuck in a way with Google, you're stuck with YouTube, no matter who you are. Now, obviously, we want to work to get out of that situation because of what we're talking about here. But practically speaking, you are stuck with them in some way if you're on the right and you're a large enough media company. Now, when we put videos out there now, even now, right, to this day, you need to realize this if you're listening. This is why we need you to just subscribe and support us directly, because the more people that do that, the more we don't have to worry about any of this. But right now, there are still videos when we put out a video onto YouTube and we talk about certain topics, we know that we'll be demonetized, that will be taken down, they'll shut your whole channel down, and you still have to play these games with them. So Peter, do you think this court decision against Google will have any real life impact? And do you think that this route, this path of attacking them on antitrust is going to bear fruit?
Yeah, I think it certainly has the possibility that it could affect their practices. There's also another huge antitrust coming through about their advertising practices and how they run online ads. Whether they could actually break up Google, I'm more incredulous about that. I don't know if that's possible. But I think that these type of rulings, or if a future administration kind of made moves a little bit, hopefully it will steer them and force them to want to not go as far as maybe they could, that it would kind of scare them a little bit of the threat of this hanging over them. I think could be a good thing.
Let's just go a little further. Let's push a little further, just because this is Blaze News tonight, and we can, and that's why we're here. We had a guest on not too long ago say this, and I thought it was very interesting. He said, "Look, antitrust, yeah, you could break up Google, the company, but you can't break up a search engine. So in a way, they know they're safe." That they still have that product, right? So if you break up the company, that's one thing. Now, I kind of think, I'm curious what you'll think. I kind of think the more we push them, the better. The more we attack them, the better. And so, like you're saying, like, let's just go with whatever attack angle we have. But I wonder how true that is. Words haunt me. And I believe this was Robert Epstein, who's done a lot of research about Google's impact on elections.
I mean, I don't know how you would go about breaking up a search engine. I mean, the other thing that's kind of not reported as much is Google's search is somewhat broken right now.
Yeah.
And I have sources inside Google that have said that they don't even know why exactly it's broken. They have theories, but when you even look up to try to find something, it's so much harder now than it was a couple of years ago. There's something seems to be going wrong with their entire software.
I feel like it would have to be like the Gorelick Wall. Do you remember this back from the 90s in the Clinton administration, where they actually got in trouble with it with the Clinton administration because like the FBI couldn't talk to the CIA, and they all kept in their own silos and they weren't sharing information. It's almost like we have to reverse that and say, Google, you have to have siloed information where you can't be sharing absolutely everything that's going on.
Well, I mean, Google claims this, and I don't doubt it, is they say that they know you better than you know yourself.
Of course they do.
Because they know what you really, it's not what you present on the outside, it's what you're actually searching for and buying and interested in.
This is why return is so important. This is why you're managing editor return, to help warn people about this and for us to help figure out ways to get the heck out of this situation.